we'll go ahead and continue with getting started with our webinar series today. I'd like to start again just kind of with our housekeeping. And as we've done in previous times, we've muted everybody's microphones to ensure sound quality and limit any distractions during this short time together. Also, continue to use the chat. Should you feel free to ask any questions or comments. We'll also have a QR code at the end where you can submit additional questions. And after we're done here, we'll gather all the questions and comments shared in the chat and be able to share those out in the responses with the recording with all of the registrants. So for those who have joined us previously, attended or watched our sessions previously, you've heard that we recently launched Pedagogy AI as a tool to assist educators in harnessing the power of AI in their organization's toolkit supporting developing a comprehensive STEM education system. So we're really excited for you to learn more about that, what we mean by that today with our guest panelist, who's going to walk us through how we're thinking about AI and its use in education. So by meeting our guest panelist, you'll learn more about who 21st Century Ed is. Also, he's going to help walk us through Pedagogy AI, why AI in education is so important, and kind of how the tool works and how we're thinking about it. So for our session objective today, as you see on the screen there, we're working to explore how educators can harness the power of generative AI to transform teaching and learning through a structured approach that integrates data-driven decision-making, differentiated instruction, and design thinking infused pedagogy we call DTIP. So without further ado, I'll get to introduce our guest panelist here, Dr. Jerome Taylor Watson. Dr. JT, known here as Dr. JT. Dr. JT is the Vice President of Products and Services, Integration Strategies at 21st Century Ed. With a remarkable 29-year career in education, Dr. JT has served as a teacher, administrator, and director of curriculum and instruction. He earned his doctorate of education in administrator leadership for teaching and learning from Walden University. And following his doctorate, Dr. JT founded a nonprofit organization dedicated to equity in dual enrollment, a mission he continues to champion at 21st Century Ed. So in his current role, Dr. JT collaborates with educational leaders across the United States and Jamaica to promote equity in 21st century STEM education for underserved populations, and his dedication to professional development and learning for schools and school leaders and teachers has significantly impacted educator effectiveness and student achievement. A respected advocate for educational change, Dr. JT is a pivotal force in advancing the mission and work at 21st Century Ed. So thank you, Dr. JT, for joining us. It's a pleasure to meet you. That's great. That's great to learn a little bit about your 9 to 5 a little bit. JT, can you give us a little insight into your 5 to 9? What are some things that you like to do? Help us get to know you a little bit.
So I am definitely an avid reader, and writer. And so I constantly work on different projects of that nature. But I'm also a TV buff. I love to kind of unwind and watch some of my favorite shows and unplug Netflix, Prime Video, and kind of just unplug and enjoy my family.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So we are here talking about the role of AI in education. I understand we have a slide that I want to put up here. And so JT, help us just walk through what we're seeing, and also your perspective, how 21st Century Ed, how we're thinking about the role of AI in education.
Absolutely. This is a very big topic, probably one of the leading topics. I'm sure many curriculum offices are trying to figure out. Many state agencies are also working on how artificial intelligence is going to be leveraged in the education space. As we all know, it is something extremely new. But it's exciting. I'm old enough to remember when computers really became a thing in schools, and when the internet became a thing in schools, and now and social media became a thing, and now we are facing this emerging technology around artificial intelligence. And one of the things that I love to do is to talk with educational leaders just throughout the country, and as we said, even in Jamaica, and really figuring out how do we leverage these tools for teaching and learning. As Danny, as you said, my background is in teaching and learning. That's my passion in terms of how students are learning based on the structure of the teaching that happens. So when you look at the role of generative AI and all of these generative AI tools such as ChatGPT and Bard and Perplexity and all of those different tools, how can we use those tools to leverage student learning and to impact teaching and learning in the classroom? And so one of the, I have here this diagram that I think kind of best will help us best to understand the building blocks. So, as I think about the role of generative AI in education, I really look at it from these three larger building blocks. The first building block is data-driven decision making. And so the first thing that you want to do is to make sure that you're leveraging this AI, any AI platform, and you're using it based on data decisions. So educators are trained to use educational data in terms of students' academic performance to inform instructional decisions. And so when you're thinking about why am I going to use these tools, you're going to use these tools to really impact and drive the data and where students are so that you are moving students through that process. We all know that there is an enormous gap that exists in education today, particularly in our underserved communities due to the COVID-19 pandemic. And that learning gap has created and impacted where our students are in terms of data. And it is amazing that now, right before us as educators, we actually have this tool that can accelerate learning, that we can impact students' data and how they learn. So the first building block is looking at data-driven decision making and using AI tools for that purpose. The second big building block is differentiated instruction. And so once you look at where students are and you are thinking about how do I want to impact their learning? How do I want to revise my teaching? Then you're going to look at that data and then create learning opportunities for students through differentiated instruction. We all know the foundations of differentiated instruction and the impact that it can have in the classroom. And, as a former administrator, I remember teachers saying it's very, very hard to create these different groups and to have enough activities for these different groups and the learning goals that exist in my class. Well, differentiated instruction is a powerful way to impact and provide personalized learning for students. While using AI, you can use AI to create these differentiated instructional models. And then the third key component is design thinking, infused pedagogy. So it's looking at best practices. So you have the data, so you know what you need to do. You have the process that differentiated instruction. You know that these different groups need key personalized instruction. And then at 21st Cent Ed, we are focused on design thinking, providing opportunities for students to learn in ways that will increase their performance. And so we call it DTIP. We have professional development around design thinking to help teachers leverage how they interact with with AI and the generative AI tools. And then the next component, if we look at, click again. So what are some of the outcomes? If we have these three large areas, data-driven decision-making, using differentiated instruction to personalize learning, and then using best practices around design thinking processes, engineering design process, inquiry-based learning, project-based learning, putting the opportunities in students' hands to demonstrate their learning, then you are creating an environment where personalized learning is at the center of what you're doing. It's one of the key impacts and outcomes of generative AI in education. The next outcome is reflective teaching. And again, I am a proponent of, teaching and learning. And so how teachers teach really impacts what students learn. Many teachers over my career say, well, I taught it to the students, right? And so I taught it, but they didn't get it, right? And so they may not have passed various assessments. And again, we're impacting that data. But there is a correlation between teaching and learning. And so with AI tools, generative AI, if used correctly in education, it will help teachers through reflective teaching. They will be able to increase and enhance their best practices, their teaching methodologies to really impact student learning. So reflective teaching is a key outcome of generative AI when used correctly in education. And then the last component, we always go back to being very student-centered, and that is looking at student agency and ownership. At the end of the day, using generative AI tools will allow you to increase student agency, where students are now performing and demonstrating their understanding. And we all know that the greatest way to impact data is to empower the students so that whether they're taking standardized testing, whether they are completing a project or designing an invention, when you put that into the hands of the student and they are empowered, they will produce greater results. And at the end of the day, we want the students to take ownership of their learning. And so just in this quick diagram here, you see the way in which 21st Cent Ed is approaching generative AI, which I believe is very, very different than how a lot of people are just using these tools. They're using the tools to, maybe create some, projects or maybe some assessments or a rubric, of some sort to engage students. But with our pedagogy AI tool, which we're going to show you in a moment, some of the key components of it, we're taking generative AI and we are driving data. We are differentiating instruction, and we are using the principles of design thinking, best practices in the classroom to produce student agency and ownership. And when we do that, can you click one more time? Right in the center of this design here, what this is really going to do is create graduates, right? We know there are many states who are in school districts are focusing on the profile of the graduate, the portrait of the graduate, because at the end of the day, what needs to be at the center, what needs to drive generative AI is student looking at student focused learning, student focused growth, and student focused outcomes. And so right there in the center is that graduation cap, because if we use data correctly, if we differentiate and personalize learning, if we empower students through design thinking infused pedagogy, they will graduate ready for the 21st century. And that is the power of generative AI in education if used correctly. And so we at 21st Cent Ed, we use generative AI in this way. Danny, if you can click onto Pedagogy AI. And so we have a tool. It is a generative AI tool, just like many companies that have, AI tools. I don't know if you can get it, AI tools, but we leverage all of those components that you saw, the link at the bottom. Yes.
All right, here we go. I get it.
So our generative AI tool, you see it at the bottom, the link at the bottom, on
Let's get
pedagogy.ai.
you.
Yes.
Let's get you right here. How about that? Okay.
There we go. Can you go to the top of this? And so we want to make sure that you have access to this because, again, leveraging uh, AI in education can be a tricky road if we are only looking at it from just another resource or just another thing to do, but really using AI in those three critical areas that I talked about: data-driven decision making, differentiating instruction for all students, and making sure that we're empowering them through design thinking so that they demonstrate student agency. And so, as it says here, the ultimate AI solution for 21st century classrooms, pedagogy allows you to create courses. So our AI tool doesn't just create lesson plans, right? Where you have to then go and upload into some platform. This is an AI platform that allows you to create courses and create those experiences that we just talked about so that we can differentiate instruction and so that students can achieve key features, automated content creation, standards, and integration. Because when we're looking at data and we're using data to drive the decisions we're making, then we are going to focus on the standards that are critical for students to learn. We call those power standards. We are teaching teachers how to leverage standards integration through professional development, through professional learning. Again, another key differentiator for our platform and our approach to AI, because we know that it'll just be another resource or just another tool without professional development and how to use those, take those three areas and make them happen in the classroom. Gamification and comprehensive tracking. And these courses can be generated to save teachers time. Pedagogy AI in general can really help teachers save time. Our platform can create these experiences that we're talking about, personalize it to the students, and complete it in minutes. And so we're talking about under 10 minutes, you can have these learning experiences for students, very targeted to what their needs are. I'd like to give an example when I'm talking to administrators. You have a classroom of 25 students, and the teacher has a standard, a goal in which to teach. And many teachers take the road of teaching to the entire class or teaching to the middle of the road. So it's one objective, one goal for the whole class. Well, all my master teachers on the call, like that's a no-no, right? Because there's no way all 25 students are on the same level, right? And so you're now looking at that standard, whatever that power standard is, and then you're looking at how my students have performed previously, or how my students have done so on a pretest. And now you have data to group the students. That's that differentiated instruction component, right? And so now with Pedagogy AI, you can create learning activities for each of those different individual groups in the classroom. And then as they're in those groups, then we, through our professional development, you'll learn that third component of how do you then use design thinking infused pedagogy, where we're increasing collaborative inquiry, where we're looking now at those activities and making sure they're rigorous and relevant, tied to real world, applications. And then we're looking at how we're increasing both academic and STEM literacies. And then we are also making sure that students at the end of the day are walking away empowered through student agency, giving them voice and choice, and they are taking ownership of their learning. And so this is how we are leveraging AI in education. And I believe it's extremely different than a lot of companies or a lot of school districts or just a lot of advocates, even at the state level, are looking at AI. But when you leverage it in this way, then it's going to be impactful. It's going to be meaningful. It's going to be a tool that actually can make a difference with teachers and students, saving teachers time, but giving students the opportunities to pick up the skills that are necessary for their future. So we are excited about AI in education. Dan, if you can go back to the slide and just have all of the elements back up as I recap here. And so the pandemic has put us all in a place and space that we need to figure out ways in which to close that learning gap. And for all of us who are educators on this call, we know that in order to close, there was a learning gap before the pandemic. And now this has just been exacerbated by the pandemic and COVID-19 and what has happened in terms of instructional, paradigms in the classroom. And so generative AI is a force that can be leveraged by educators to impact that learning loss and to decrease it. I love the term accelerated learning. This can be used for remediation. It can be used for enrichment, but I love that this tool can be used, generative AI can be used to accelerate learning. We have to get our kids on track. We have to get them on grade level. We have to impact, at the end of the day, their data. We have to impact their success. And in order to do that, this tool is here that allows us to personalize learning. Teachers can reflect on their practices and improve their practices, because at the end of the day, we're not going to close those gaps unless teachers are reflective of what am I doing. We know also, I mean, schools are about to begin in the United States, even in Jamaica. They're about to starting in September, around the same kind of cycle we have. And as we're going back to school, what are we thinking about? How are we thinking about data? How are we thinking about closing that achievement gap? How are we going to make sure that learning is personalized and not just taught to the middle of the classroom, and that we're differentiating instruction in a way that's meaningful to each student? If you have not seen a live demo of Pedagogy AI, I encourage you to reach out to 21st and Ed so that you can see this tool in action. I am telling you, you will be blown away at how you can impact student learning and accelerate their learning and close that gap. I'd love to see all of you a year from now, and we talk about how you were able to move the needle, how you were able to impact your students through the use of artificial intelligence. And again, Pedagogy AI is probably one of the smartest tools I've seen out there, resources for teachers that they can use to supplement instruction, teaching and learning in the classroom, and impact overall student achievement. I think my time is up. I want to turn it back over to Danny. Thank you for having me here. And again, you guys know I'm passionate about this. Those who are on the call, again, if you reach out to us, I can spend, time with you in your district, you in your school, and we can figure out how to close that achievement gap, because it's upon us as the adults. The kids are in their summer, they're having fun, they're doing whatever they're doing, and they are expecting us and depending on us as adults to make those critical decisions that's going to impact their future. And through artificial intelligence, generative AI, with a tool like Pedagogy AI, we can do just that.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. JT. Wow, that was very impactful. And you can see why we're so thankful to have Dr. JT on the 21st Ed team, and impacting students, teaching and learning that way. Thank you so much. We really appreciate your time and that thorough explanation, right, of the importance of AI in education. We believe, at 21st Ed that everyone, all educational institutions need to have a comprehensive STEM education system. And this is just one of those tools that we're working and collaborating with districts and institutions everywhere to help all students become exposed, to have relevant experiences and opportunities to gain the knowledge and the skills that they need to prepare them for the future. So thank you so much. That's it. We are here to support. We are grateful and looking forward to collaborating with you, and encourage you to reach out in to any of these mediums here. We provided these emails in each webinar session, but also you can visit 21stned.com. You saw Pedagogy AI or .ai. You can visit that as well. We added the link in there, and then also we will provide that that a PDF of what Dr. JT explained and walked us through in terms of those three components of thinking about generative AI in education today. So we'll share that out with the recording today. Again, thank you so much. And here's the QR code. If you have any additional questions, or thoughts or comments come up after you've kind of pondered on and thought about what we've talked about today, feel free to grab this QR code and send it to us. We'll reach out to you promptly. Until our next webinar series, which may come up sooner than later, we're excited to collaborate and meet you all and see your questions. So thank you so much. Everybody have a great day. Thanks again, Dr. JT.